Thank you very much for joining us once again. Welcome back. This is our 7th lecture on UAE Economic Substance Regulations, and we are discussing relevant activities. Out of the 9 relevant activities, 3 we have already discussed. This we are discussing today, and we are discussing today Lease-Finance Business. As we discussed earlier, if a licensee is carrying out lease-finance businesses, licensee is subject to ESR. So we'll discuss what is lease-finance business. They said if a licensee is offering credit or financing for any kind of consideration, so it will be considered lease finance business. So means if licensee is offering any credit or any type of financing against this credit, against this financing, licensee is getting consideration, then it will be considered that licensee is carrying out a lease finance business. This includes intra-group financing as well. So this includes loans. These loans may be to related party, to unrelated party. Might be these loans are to the local entity, might be entity out of UAE, because law is not classifying this that loan is being provided to the local entity. Might be loan is being provided to an entity out of UAE. It will be considered financing, it will be considered loan, it will be subject to ESR. Finance lease. Finance lease will also be considered as financing. They said this finance lease does not include land. So what is this finance lease? Finance lease has been defined in the UAE law that where the ownership of the asset will be transferred eventually to the lessee. If the ownership of the asset will be transferred eventually to the lessee, it will be considered that licensor is carrying out a finance lease business. So any type of finance lease other than land, it will be subject to ESR. Then they said credit. This credit can be in the form of hire purchase agreement, long-term credit, or any other type of financing arrangement. It will be subject to ESR. Means if there are payment terms of 30 days, 50 days, 80, 90, I can understand. Even 180 days, it will be considered short-term financing. I personally believe where the financing is more than 1 year, then it will come under the ambit of lease finance business. It will be subject to ESR. Then we can establish that no consideration, no lease finance business. Consideration can be in the form of interest, origination and processing fee, gains upon the conversion of the loan into the share capital, debtor, late payment penalties will also be considered consideration. If the licensee has made an investment into the bonds and secured debt securities, these bonds and these debt securities are being traded on the regulated stock exchange, then it will not be subject to ESR. If these debts or these bonds are being traded in the unregulated exchange, then it will be subject to ESR. So far duplicate reporting is concerned, it has been very clearly written that if the bank is doing banking business, bank is doing insurance business, bank is providing investment finance management services, along with this bank is providing lease finance businesses also, then it has been written very clearly, then bank will not be required to satisfy the test under the lease finance business. What are core income generating activities? There are these core income generating activities should be in UAE. If these activities are in UAE, it will be considered that licensee is satisfying the economic substance test regarding the core income generating activities. Like they are agreeing and funding terms, identifying and acquiring assets in UAE, setting the terms and duration within UAE, monitoring and revising that agreement. These is all being happening in UAE. Managing any risk, they are sitting in UAE, they are managing risk. Regulatory authorities are central bank or competent authority in any free zone or financial free zone. So these are the examples They said one company, STU, this company has given a loan to its subsidiary and the name of the subsidiary was VWX. Interest rate was 10%. This 10% will be considered consideration. This is intra-group loan, so it will be subject to ESR. Now in the second example they are asking, STU has transferred the loan to another group company and the name of the company was YZ. And it will be considered a loan from YZ to WX. So if there was only single loan from STU to VWX and this loan has been transferred from STU to YZ, so it will not be considered any financing here and financing will be established here. Now if STU is charging any interest to YZ, it will be subject to ESR. If STU is not charging any interest to YZ, it will not be subject to ESR. Loan has been transferred by STU to YZ. This is the same loan. Again, interest rate will be 10% here. It will be considered, it will be subject to ESR. So this is another example in which one company, trade company which is based in UAE, this company has given credit to another company for 45 days. They said this is a simple trade credit arrangement, it will not be subject to ESR. And due to some reason there is some sort of penalty, the company has not made the payment on time. This penalty will also not be subject to ESR because this credit was not offered with the intention of generating interest, so it will not be subject to ESR. In the fourth example, in the JMR group, this is centralized treasury department. This centralized treasury department is arranging loans from the bank. Then this department is giving loans to other group companies. So this is cost to cost arrangement. They are taking around at 5%, giving at 5%. Still it will be subject to ESR because we have already decided that intra-group loan will also be subject to ESR. Centralized treasury department is getting consideration, means getting interest from the group companies. Thank you very much for joining us. In our next lecture, we will discuss the next relevant activity.